What's up, everybody? Welcome aboard the Cinemaholics train. My name is Spencer Henderson, and I'm a Cinemaholic, and it's actually just me today. The rest of the gang is somewhat busy, and it's kind of fitting because, well, Bella likes horror movies, but I'm kind of the big one around here on horror movies. I don't necessarily love them. It's not my favorite genre, but I just watch a lot of them. And there are some that I do love and some that I would consider not just my favorite movies, but the best movies of all time. And I kind of wanted to talk about some of those today, but more thematically, kind of movies that you should watch on Halloween specifically, and one that I might not be able to get the rest of the group to see. There's one on here that we all have recently watched that I will mention. It's the last movie I'm going to be talking about. But there's a couple movies that I'm going to hold off on because I feel like at some point down the road we're all going to talk about them on a classic review. And I tried to stick to older movies. Pre 21st century. So everything on this list came before the year 2000, even up till one that came out in 1999, which I'll be getting to in a couple of seconds. So let's just go for it. I have 6 selections. I'm going to try to be brief about them. The first one is kind of the most lighthearted one of my picks, and that's going to be Monster Squad, which was actually written by Shane Black, and it's kind of like a Goonies-esque film. And this is just a fun movie, like I said. It's got the witty Shane Black, snappy dialogue that I think that everybody in your family, young or old, is going to enjoy this movie. So I highly recommend Monster Squad as a movie you could even watch tonight. It would be perfect and fitting. The next on my list is more of kind of another fun, campy movie, a little more on the gory side than Monster Squad, but that's going to be Evil Dead 2. Now, I know what you're thinking, shouldn't I watch the Evil Dead first? And the answer is yes, but you don't have to watch it first. Evil Dead 2, in some ways, to me, I mean, it is a sequel, but it feels a lot like a retelling of the first movie on a higher budget. This is back before the remake of Evil Dead. Like I said, this is like it was made in the 80s, directed by Sam Raimi, still on a relatively low budget. I believe Stephen King helped him acquire funding for this movie. And this movie's a blast. It is so much fun. I love Evil Dead 2. It's one of my favorite horror movies ever, one of my favorite sequels ever. I think Bruce Campbell is magnetic in this movie. There are so many fun sequences. I would highly recommend this. It's a great haunted house movie. It's a lot of fun, and it's a movie that you'd want to watch with friends and have make a movie night out of. It's just a total blast. That's Evil Dead 2. Check that one out. The next one is the 1999 release I was just referring to, and that's going to be The Blair Witch Project. This movie is super spooky. It's very atmospheric and very minimalist, which is one of the reasons why I chose it to be on the list, is because this is a movie that is very contained. It's small, and in those ways the emotions feel so much bigger. It doesn't show the Blair Witch at any point in the movie. And I think that makes the atmosphere more terrifying. We see characters' reactions to seeing some scary stuff.
Hurry up! I'm coming! My boots aren't laced. Oh my god, what the fuck is that? What the fuck is that?
Which is way spookier to me. And it feels all so authentic. It's one of the reasons why it fooled so many people at the time into thinking that this actually occurred. And I just think that Blair Witch Project is a film that everybody should check out because it really was a phenomenon at the time, and it really captures the feeling of terror in a way that no other movie does, or I feel like really can, just because it was the first of its kind other than like Cannibal Holocaust with found footage. And I really, really recommend people watch this movie. So that's the Blair Witch Project, guys. Give that one a shot because it's pretty great. Next up is the big one. It's going to be Halloween, which is, of course, the original John Carpenter classic. And this movie is so iconic. The music is great. Of course, the villain of Michael Myers. Jamie Lee Curtis is the teen who's trying to escape him. It's very, it's one of the first slasher movies, other than Psycho, but it really resembles Psycho in some ways with the way it shows its on-screen violence. So I would highly recommend people check out Halloween, the original Carpenter classic. I even think I'm going to be watching Halloween tonight, just as it's a fitting thematic thing to do. My last two are two of not only the highly regarded, but probably the two best horror movies I've ever seen. First one's going to be The Exorcist, and that is, of course, the William Friedkin film and the scariest film I have ever seen. This movie is horrific in many more ways than just one. The performances are terrifying. The body horror in this movie is actually really effective. And sometimes I find body horror a little bit campy. Last year on our last year's Cinemaholics Halloween special, which you should watch, by the way, we talk about some movies that aren't on this list, and I left them off specifically because we talked about them last year. But one of the movies we talked about last year was The Thing. And The Thing is a movie that has body horror, but it feels a lot more kind of campy, but like in a way that's not cheesy. It just feels more out there and otherworldly, I guess is the word I'm looking for. Maybe campy wasn't the right word. But The Exorcist, it all feels like something that almost could happen. And this whole entire experience you're watching in this movie of a lady dealing with her child being possessed kind of feels very intimate, and it's smaller scale than most horror movies are willing to go. In fact, both my last movies are. And for that reason, I find this movie super chilling, and there is some subliminal imagery in The Exorcist that is just terrifying. This movie has a couple flashes of this really horrific looking face that's supposed to be the devil, I feel like. And it is just a movie you will never forget watching for the first time. So that's William Friedkin's The Exorcist, which if you can stomach it and if you feel up to the task, because it is horrifying, then check it out. And my last movie and my favorite horror movie of all time is, of course, Stanley Kubrick's The Shining, which stars Jack Nicholson and Shelley Duvall and tells the story of a family who are, going out to this overlook hotel to watch over it for the winter. And the opening scene of this movie is a shot of their car driving up the mountain. And it just gives you this great sense of the isolation of this environment that they're in, how far and detached from the world they are. And it really has this great kind of, it's almost a metaphor for Jack's psyche as the farther the movie goes and the farther he goes out towards this overlook hotel, the farther detached from himself and his sanity he is. And I think that this movie is brilliant on so many levels. There are tons of horrific sequences. The old lady in the room will never stop being scary to me. Of course, the two iconic shots of the iconic shot of the twins in the hallway and Danny riding his tricycle through the hallways is just something that it's so atmospheric and moody and just really sets up this really great tension in the movie that I think pays off in the end, and it explodes into this just crazy chaotic climax of violence and pretty deplorable and freaky human behavior. And I think that The Shining is a movie that anybody who is a fan of movies or film should watch. Kubrick's cinematography in this movie, or his shot composition, I suppose, is meticulous. The way that it's framed, the way that the camera moves throughout the movie is so tense, and it just really kind of sets up this labyrinth, not, unrelated to the labyrinth actually within the movie, but it sets one up that kind of sends you as a viewer going through it. And I think that's just one of those movies that's structured so well on every single level that I think everybody should see it, and I think it's a perfect movie. So anyways, guys, I hope you guys have a great Halloween. I hope I've given you some good suggestions on horror movies to watch. Of course, you can always like, comment, or subscribe. And make sure to comment, guys. What are your favorite horror movies? I really want to know. I like horror movies and I watch a lot of them. So I think that, yeah, we should get a discussion going here. What are your favorite movies to watch on Halloween? It doesn't have to be anything spooky. It can even be something like Ryan put a reaction on Stardust of Great Pumpkin Charlie Brown, which is a great Halloween movie. So comment down below, favorite Halloween movie. Let me know. I'll reply to you, talk to you a little bit about it. But thank you all very much for watching. As I said, like, comment, subscribe. You guys can follow me on Twitter, Letterboxd, and Instagram. Is it? No, Stardust. Stardust, sorry. At Spinny Hind. And thank you all very much for watching. And until next time, bye.